Hi. So Stalker 2 is getting a ton of positive news lately. There's a bunch of articles, a ton of websites, people making content like me, and I have to talk about it, so I wanted to put together a short little video to give you all of the news about what is happening with Stalker 2 and all of the fanfare surrounding it. So if you're excited about Stalker 2 and all things RPGs, Bethesda games, Mass Effect, Witcher, any of that kind of stuff, if it sounds good to you, then consider leaving a like at the least and a sub at the most. Thank you so much. Let's go.
Wanna be a renegade? Red wolf, red wolf renegade, red wolf renegade.
So let's start with one of the first ones I got here from Games Pressure that says, I only spent 3 hours with the game and I already had the one more syndrome known from Civilization, but not just the one more turn, but one more side quest to complete, one more abandoned building or house to explore, and a visit into that complex in the distance. And I think this definitely does lend to the explorability of a Stalker game, because everywhere that you go, you're always going to see something in the distance, and you know that you can walk in, scavenge, and there's always something to, be curious about. And that curiosity really drives a lot of what Stalker is when it comes to exploration, especially. Games Radar says, ultimately I do think Stalker 2 is going to take a lot of players on Xbox and PC by surprise. The likes of Elden Ring, along with a bloom in realistic difficulty modes, shows that we're generally willing to get punished time and time again if it's for a world worth surviving in. The zone follows this rule. After all, what's a little bit of radiation between friends? I ended my time in Stalker 2 battered, bruised, and low on just about every supply imaginable, but came away with a craving to let my curiosity guide me into just one more moldering warehouse or dark cave to score just one more thunking headshot before being killed myself. No, the zone might not want me there, but given how much fun defying it is, I can think of no place I'd rather be dying at launch. Coming from two different sites, it does seem that the consensus here is what they have nailed is exploration and a really addictive sense of wonder and curiosity overall. And comparing it to Elden Ring really is a great comparison, I think, because a lot of people have never played a Souls-like game or a FromSoft game when it comes to Elden Ring, but they jumped into Elden Ring because it had enough there to introduce them into the genre as a whole. And I think that this is going to be the same way with Stalker when comparing it to a regular shooter. As an example, Games Radar says, I liked this a lot. Having to really think about what I should do, coming across side quests, and having to seriously think about whether or not I should even bother. It's immersive, it's desperate, and it's great. There's one mission where a stalker asks you to grab his brother's corpse from a patch of land swarmed with anomalies that can kill you in an instant. I was low on healing items and it seemed like a pain, so I walked away. Elsewhere, I gave a precious family relic to an NPC instead of the quest giver I was probably supposed to return to, and got a sick gun that I couldn't even afford to repair. Stalker 2 is wonderfully adept at acclimating you into its world, whether you like it or not. There's a Reddit post that actually elaborates further on this particular anecdote, and they talk about how the surprises didn't end there. I agreed to help Squint by retrieving an artifact and descended into a cave system for a fraught encounter with a bloodsucker. But after defeating the creature and retrieving the artifact, I received a mission failed notification. Excuse me, Stalker 2, but don't you mean mission succeeded? I soon found out that the game was in the right, as upon returning to Squint's hidey hole, I discovered that he was dead. And I'm not entirely sure what happened, whether a mutant or bandit had rocked up and killed him, whether Squint had accidentally triggered one of the many traps he'd set to defend himself from such an ambush, or whether this was a good old-fashioned bug, but I asked the developer supervising the session if this was supposed to happen, to which he shrugged, explaining that Squint was not a particularly important character, saying, yes, this is Stalker. Morpham Games Radar says, after playing 3 hours of Stalker 2 and dying in every way imaginable, I can't wait to recommend this post-apocalyptic shooter to almost every Fallout fan I know. The zone is big, beautiful, and brutal. But if you can stomach the difficulty, it offers one of the most immersive survival experiences around. Like everything in the zone, Stalker 2 is deeply unforgiving, but that's precisely why I think it's going to induct a whole new generation of Stalkers. I have concern over how stable the game will be at launch, but if you spent any time in Fallout's survival mode, counting your ammo in Metro or even slogging through The Last of Us on grounded difficulty, it's hard to think of another game I can so readily recommend ahead of its launch in November. So, as someone who has played all of the original Stalker trilogy, I've finished all of them, then I went on to play the massive expansion mod Stalker Anomaly, I can tell you that the biggest takeaway from all of these previews so far is that the identity of the game is not lost on a lot of people that have had hands-on, even if they have not played the original trilogy. Basically, what I'm saying is, people aren't looking at Stalker 2 as just another post-apocalyptic game with shooting and mutants and whatnot, and comparing it to things like Call of Duty with a post-apocalyptic skin or another Fallout clone. It seems they truly understand what Stalker is and always has been. And one of the things that I was really interested in hearing from people who have not been exposed to the Stalker franchise was talking about the difficulty. Stalker is a very slow-paced game that rewards you for taking your time, exploring, scavenging, and really just taking your time to stop and think for a second rather than checking your ammo, making sure you have enough guns and grenades, and then just going and blasting, because I can promise you this will not work in Stalker. And since I cover a lot of Bethesda content on this channel, I feel like I had to mention that Stalker 2 has been compared to a Bethesda game yet again. There is one quote from a source stating that Stalker 2 does Bethesda better than Bethesda. Now, of course, you can take that with a grain of salt because everyone loves Bethesda games for different reasons. I mean, look at Starfield. But I think what they are trying to say is that one of the greatest things about Bethesda games is that they do give you an amazing sense of player agency. Do what you want, go where you want, be who you want, make the decisions you want, make the bad decisions, or reap the consequences or the rewards, and so on. And it's crazy to think that this has always been a major part of the Stalker IP and identity. And until someone actually said it, I didn't really think about it, but they're completely right to compare it that way. And I know it's blasphemous to say that you can compare a Stalker game to a Fallout game, but honestly, we don't have many open world apocalypse games that give us agency like a Bethesda game, so I think that this is a fair comparison if you set aside the actual difficulty and the mechanics and features as a whole when comparing a Fallout game to a Stalker game. Stalker 2 releases in just 30 days, and I couldn't be more excited about it, so I just had to put out a quick little video talking about some of the previews and hands-on that people have had, and they love it. A lot. So if you made it all this way, consider leaving a like at the least and a sub at the most, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.